The quarter hit the pavement, bounced a few times, and ended up face down on the hard surface. That's exactly what happened to Sam Eversore, except no one stopped to pick him up, and he didn't bounce all that much either. Eventually he opened his eyes, pulled himself up, and looked around. He didn't see anything familiar. He couldn't even remember his name. It was old Joe at Joe's Diner who gave him the name Sam Eversore after he limped in from the street later that day. Sam took up residence in the Billingsworth Hotel, a refuge for the lost. One day he sat at the piano in the lobby, and the music began to pour out. Later, he would be hired by the town's hockey team to play the anthem and rile up the locals. That's when he decided to keep Sam Eversore as his stage name. He was watching from the window of the hotel the day the old Buick drove up. You know when you're almost remembering something, but you can't quite place it? You look, and you know you should remember a person's name, but it's not there. Ever stop to ask yourself what exactly you do remember? A glint in the eye, an expression, the sound of their voice? Sam didn't know, but there was something about the Buick. Or was it about the driver, or the road, or the time of day? He watched until the driver got in the car again and drove off. Then there was a glimmer of recognition as the trunk of the car came into view, and that feeling left once it passed out of sight. What do you do? What would you do if something that clicked deep in your brain with a lost recognition just drove down your street? I can't say what you would do, but Sam Eversore went to the lobby and began to play the piano. He played the piano because he couldn't remember where the music came from either, or how he learned to play it, and because this morning kind of felt like he was placing his fingers on the trunk of that car. Zeke semicircled, parked the Buick out back in the old horse stable, now turned garage. He piled enough bales of hay in front of it to obscure it from view. The driver, once resident, now sat in the kitchen at Billingsworth eating bacon, sunny side-up eggs, and hash browns. He dipped his toast into the yolks. Where do I start this story of mine? Where do I start? The moment you decided, if you can recall, something had to change. The precise moment you snapped would be appreciated. What makes you think I snapped? What makes you so special? Look around you. Open your eyes. Everybody snaps. Snap, crackle, pop. This place is just a large cereal box. If you all snapped, why do you need me? Because we need a catalyst. Don't you get it? Snap, crackle, pop. Get what? You're in here because you're the milk. The residents of the Billingsworth Hotel slowly assembled in what would have once been the lobby, now repurposed as a meeting room, with comfortable armchairs, some aging magazines, and a couple of dusty ferns. The atmosphere of reality was slightly tempered by the smell of medication which pervaded the space. Harold Holdington wiped a single bead of sweat passing down his temple between his right eye and ear. He addressed the assembled. Sanity is not so much being grounded in the present as it is being held a prisoner of the past, held in place firmly by these long strands of memory running in all directions. When you move one way, you stretch all the other strands. To be at ease is simply staying where you are, making no movement at all. This is what they call sanity. You have cut some of the mooring lines. Your barges are floating, free to move about a bit. And since you have movement, you are considered dangerous, because you just might sever more of your ropes if you are left to your own devices. The medication puts you into a state of motionlessness, unless you can be convinced to firmly secure your barge to the pier once again. I'm a roader, you understand. Roads are like neural highways. They are all interlinked in all directions. There are no reasons for having roads if everyone stays still. The roads are for the insane. The same people who rode the rails in an earlier era now drive. If you don't drive, you will know immediately what I'm saying. There are these rules against being restless. Even if you just sit here, every little twitch or tick is noted. There are far too many rules to even enumerate. Just look at us. I speak, you listen. I stand, you sit. You look at me, I look at you. During this discourse, we are quite still. One listening would think we're sane. As some of you guessed, I snapped. Quite recently, really. I got up from my desk at work, and immediately people wanted to know where I was going. I was reminded of a meeting taking place 10 minutes later, that my presence was required. The alarm movement created was felt by all around me. So we have a web of ill-defined rules all around us. Mind your P's and Q's. No one really understands what that means. Here's a recent beauty. Have a staycation. To be sane, or to acquire sanity, is to follow and adopt all the rules one can uncover. But we all falter in some way. There are many who just can't stay alone in a room for more than 10 minutes. Now my time's up. I have to be going. Not sure where or why. Those answers will reveal themselves in the same way I ended up here. You won't be able to leave. The attendant at the door will stop you the same way he stops all of us. I guess so. He has his rules to follow like everyone else. But as you can see, I have a visitor's pass. I hand it to him when I'm leaving, and he will open the door for me. Walking towards the attendant in white, he turned in his pass and left the room with one further comment. The rules! Remember the rules! Zyke semicircle rose and began to recite all the rules he could remember. There are 64 squares on a checkerboard, 32 light ones and 32 dark. You only ever place your checkers on the dark ones. The checkers are to be arranged with the crown sides up. You can only move forward one space at a time on the diagonal. If you are offered a jump, you must accept it. When your checker reaches the far side of the board, it becomes a king. A king can move forward and backward. Light squares on the checkerboard must never be used. Walter, half awake, stirred. I propose a motion the next time we have a guest, we remove their guest pass without them noticing. I second the motion. All in favor, raise your arms. All against? The ayes have it. Let the record show the motion has been adopted. The end.